The fire burning red in a Georgia representing of a comes hard here. You know. Big up Kidaki, Buxton massive. Hey Babylon boy, you go on like you know, like come son. Red.
Never joke, never joke, never joke. Oh, money never, money never, money never, money never, money. I know what you're conniving. Money never, money never, money. You can keep your conniving money. When you've been a corrupt bum, in a been tell me money. Now because you money down, you come with conniving money. When you had your pocket full, in a been tell me money. Now because you money down, you hustle for tell me money. Yes, money never, money never, money never, money. I don't want you conniving money. Neighbor, joker, neighbor, joker, neighbor, joker. That's all the money that me walk for. A 2 pound note and a kill that piece. A 2 pound note and a kill that piece. A 2 pound note and a kill that piece. This is all the money that me walk for. I said money never, money never, money never, money. I don't want you conniving money. Oh, Joseph.
Guyana and Guyanese, at home and abroad. Tune in to Guyanese Morning Time, hosted by Kadaki Amsterdam, where the sun always shines. Guyanese Morning Time, the people call it Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese Morning Time. The people call it Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again. We rise up early morning watching Comes TV, where wisdom and knowledge, yes, it is the key. Exposing corruption over land and sea, where the wicked politician they try to trick me. Guyana is a land for everybody. With 6 races should live in harmony. There's one set of people getting aisle money. There's one set of people doing the thievery. Guyanese Morning Time. The people calling Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese Morning Time. The people calling Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again. This is a program that you all can see, sharing your views and your integrity. Like it, comment and share it all around. Pass it to your neighbor, safe and sound. A sad situation going on in this town. The voice of the people is getting trampled down. Out of the mouths of babes and sucklings, which Jah has ordained me to sing. I sing Guyanese Morning Time. The people calling Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese Morning Time. The people calling Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, fooling the people. You're promoting evil. Stop lying to the people. You are a part of the cycle. Stop fooling people. You're promoting evil. Stop lying to the people. You are a part of the cycle. I say Guyanese Morning Time. The people calling Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, Rhythm, Guyanese morning time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese morning time. The people calling Guyanese morning time. Rhythm, Guyanese morning time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, they got Breakford, Bork and Mark Benchcop. David Hines and Kadaki Amsterdam, Sherrod Duncan, Nigel London, Normal Brown and Gavin Matthews, Big Up Paslow, Port People Governor, Simona Brooms, Robin Simpson, Hampton Green and Winston Jordan, and yes, we can go right on and on. Guyanese morning time, the people calling Guyanese morning time. Rhythm, Guyanese morning time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese morning time. The people calling Guyanese morning time. Rhythm, Guyanese morning time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again.
The relatives and friends of young Wyndham Bacchus, they deserve justice. The family, the relatives and friends of our in Boston, they deserve justice. The family, the relatives and friends of Peter Headley, they deserve justice.
And so when we say that Guyana is an apartheid state, we have the evidence to show.
Comes out your son. You burn this wine when I want you shine. The tree of life, them I want you climb, cause them heart no kind. Comes, I say them heart no kind. Buxton Massive, Kidaki, Red Hat.
Hey fans, it's karaoke and oldies night this and every Thursday at Club Twilight Sideline Dam, Buxton. Dance to the magical songs of yesteryear by popular DJs and Camps Audio. Admission is free. Come out, let's make memories at Club Twilight Sideline Dam, Buxton North. Guyanese Morning Time. How are you doing? I am the BUXTONIAN Kidaki Amsterdam. I am your host. It is 40 minutes past the 7 o'clock hour. It's Wednesday, so we're going to have Professor Dr. David Hines in the house. How you been? How was your last night?
As a member of the People's National Congress Reform, I strongly believe it is essential for us to elect leaders who are committed to rebuild our great party. And Rosedale Ford is one such leader. We can only regain political power by rebuilding our party at all levels. Therefore, I urge you, the delegates, to vote Rosedale Ford as leader on June 30th, 2024. Thank you.
The foregoing was a paid political ad. How are you though? How was I last night? How was I yesterday? How are you make out? Yeah, see any fairness, any hope that things are changing in this country for the better? We had blackout again. What happened, man? I really want somebody to come out and tell me what's going on with the powerboat. Is it that the powerboat is powerless, or it just as faltering as the GP Hell, as people say? Or is it that GP Hell's network is so faulty that it cannot even accommodate the powerboat? You know, old people that say good thing from bad stomach does result in problems anyway. So is it that we're getting a good power supply on a bad distribution network, and so things are not working out? I don't know. I asking because I want to know too. So if any of y'all know, y'all could tell me. Right? Good. If any of y'all know, y'all could tell me. We have Dr. Hines in the house. Dr. Hines, good morning. Welcome to the program.
Good morning.
How you do? Oh,
I'm fine, thanks.
How they treating you in this dear country of ours?
Depends on who they you're talking about.
Well, you know, the thing is, no man is an island, no man stands alone. As long as you live in this society, you have to interact with everybody.
I love being here. No, this is home for me.
Good. And since you've been here, I'm sure you've witnessed up close and personal a lot of things. Not that you don't witness, not that you don't, you're not aware of them when you are at work, but you are here now, and I am sure you're moving more frequently in the society among people. And are you seeing enough things going on, man? I don't know, some things that would as they get a chill.
I've been in this story for 50 odd years. Chill. This is Guyana.
Let's talk about what some might consider biggest breaking news in recent times, and that is the U.S. Treasury, I think Department of Foreign Asset Controls or something like that it's called, issuing statements to say that they have sanctioned, among other people, an executive member or a leading member of the PPP and permanent secretary of one of the ministries, May Thomas, for engaging in corrupt practices, insider trading, etc., with Mohammed's enterprise. That for us was big news. Some people seeing it as an indication of things to come. What are your interpretations of those announcements, the implications of those announcements?
I said last night on my program that I'm not anti-opium, and I wish I had some opium powers so that I can see what there is to come. I can't see what there is to come. I can see what is. Listen, This is a big story, and many people will take it from different angles. The angle that is most important for me is the role of the government and the state. In any society, citizens are always going to try to get over, to try to cheat the system, to beat the system. That is normal in any society. And one of the reasons you create government, one of the reasons we create government is to minimize people trying to beat the system, cheat the system, beat up on one another and so on. The role of the government and the state is to mediate conflicts in the society, to prevent us from going against our own self. Mankind in his natural state, his life shall be nasty, short, nasty, and brutish, said the British philosopher. And the government and the state are meant to prevent that, to prevent the worst in us. Here is a story that shows that the government and the state are aiding and abetting the worst in us. Let me repeat. The role of government in the state is to prevent the worst in us from taking over the society. Here we have the government and the state aiding and abetting the worst in us. So for me, that is the story. It is not the corruption on the part of the Mohammeds. That's bad enough. But I'm saying, you show me a society in the world that does not exist, and I will tell you you're crazy. So citizens by our very nature are always going to try to get around the system, beat the system, cheat the system. It is the role of the government. I'm repeating this for 3-4 times, because sometimes I think we get off on the Mohammeds. The story here is not the Mohammeds. The story here is the government and the state aiding and abetting international crime. That is the story. And if we don't recognize that's the story, then we're wasting our time. The story is not the Mohammeds. The Mohammeds are the consequence of the problem. The problem we have in Guyana is that we have a government and a state that are complicit in criminality. That is the story. And I want our people, including you and all the others, to say that loud and clear. That's the story. The Mohammeds are the consequence of the problem. And when we concentrate on the Mohammeds, we are missing the beat. The beat is that we have a criminalized state. Professor Clive Thomas said that more than a decade ago. And what we mean by a criminalized state is that the state is now fused with criminality. Miss May Thomas, if we are to believe the Americans, acting as an agent of the government and the state, has been complicit with criminal activities to defraud the government and the state and the people of Guyana. That's high crime. That's high crime. And Ms. Thomas could not have been acting alone. That's not how the state operates. That's not how governments operate. No individual's permanent secretary acts alone. She's acting as the face of something that is more deep-seated, that involves people who are higher than her. She is not, Ms. Thomas, she is not going to make those decisions that the Americans are claiming that happened. She's not going to make that on her own. She had to be instructed, she had to be guided. And so therefore, this is an indictment of the government and the state of Guyana. And while I'm at it, let me make a distinction for our viewers between what is government and what is state. The state is the permanent institutions that make a country run, that manages a country. The state is the combination of institutions. Institutions such as the coercive arms, the police, the army. Institutions such as what we call the government, the public service, the ministries, the schools, the economic arms. Those are government-owned businesses. The GRA, all of those things are what we call the state. Those things are permanent institutions that make the society work, that manages the society. The government is what we elect every 5 years. We elect them to manage the state. And what we have is a government that is manipulating the state and using the state in ways that achieve their political and personal agendas. So we have a government that comes from a party, and that government is in the business of cheating and defrauding the Guyanese people. That government is in the business of discriminating against those who did not vote for it. That government is in the business of killing citizens who they think do not belong to their constituency. And they're not doing it as individuals. It is not the PPP. The PPP is using the state apparatus to do these things. So it is aiding and abetting crime, corruption. It is not doing it on its own. It is using the government, the public service, the ministry. And Ms. Thomas is the representative of that ministry, that institution of the state. So they're using the state to engage in criminal activities. And that is the worst crime any government can do, can commit. And what amazes me, I know you all always say what amazes you all is that people are not on the streets and boots on the ground, and you all know that I am not big on that. What amazes me is that there are elites in this society, political elites as represented by the leadership of the political parties, economic elites as represented by leaders in business, social elites that as represented by the so-called civil society organizations, cultural elites as represented by those people who are the gatekeepers of the different cultural entities, the elites in the society who have a disproportionate, that's why we're calling them elites, because they have a disproportionate amount of resources. People like myself are called educational elites. We represent probably 5% of the society, those of us who have masters and doctorates, which means we have disproportionately more education, formal education than the rest of the society. That's why we are called elites. And so we have power. I am exercising that power right now that I have. Had I not been, quote unquote, an educated person, I would not have this platform. Nobody would pay me any mind. And so therefore, because of my elite status, I have a bigger voice than the normal citizen, regular citizen. And do I use that voice to further my own personal agenda, or do I use that voice on behalf of those who don't have a voice? And so sometimes when I hear, people going off on why Guyanese people taking this and Guyanese people not boots on the ground, I'm asking, where are the boots on the ground for the elites? The elites have the power to do what the regular citizens can't do. A regular citizen can't do what I'm doing here. I am able to do this. You are able to do it because we have disproportionately more resources as political elites, as educational elites. And so therefore, when we are hollering on Guyanese people, we are hollering at the wrong places. The Guyanese people don't have the kind of agency that the elites have. And when something of this magnitude occurs in the society, and the elites are going about their business as if all is well, that points to the crisis in the society. Where are those elites that hammer Forbes Burnham and the PNC? Where are those elites that hammer Granger the other day? Here is the PPP government going to places where Burnham would never dream to go. And that is to overtly use the state as part of international crime. Burnham would have never facilitated the Mohammeds. Burnham would have never allowed any of his permanent secretaries to do what the PPP is doing. In this case, it means that the PPP is exponentially worse in governance than Burnham. Yet there are elites in this country, Indian Guyanese elites outside of the PPP, who hammer Burnham, who hammer Granger, but are not hammering. You open the papers, where are all these voices? They're busy going after Exxon. And nothing is wrong with that. Exxon is cheating Guyana. But here is the government involved in cheating Guyana. And they're not going after the government. And these are the very people that went after Burnham with a vengeance. Vengeance. The Indian Guyanese elites, sections of the African Guyanese elites, what we call the red-skinned middle-class people who are the custodians of our society, the black middle class. They're quiet. They're quiet. What about those in the political parties, the PMC, the AFC? They are the parliamentarians. They're busy running for office. That's good. I have absolutely no problem with that. It's good in political. But take a day. There's a crisis in this society, a crisis of governance that has now become overt for everybody to see. And you are still running as if all is well in our country. Take a day off the campaign trail. Come together as leaders. Make a statement to the society. Reassure your supporters that you know what is happening in this society, that this is a serious turning point. Oh no, they are going about their business, fighting one another, cussing one another, demeaning one another. I can't stop your program. Your program is your program. But I would not play that ad that you played before I just come on a day like today. You are talking about who is the best leader for this country and all that. And I don't mind it because people are running for office. But take a day or two off and say, no, a crisis has hit our society that is of more importance. And rather I win or I lose a party election. And so the crisis in our society is a crisis of governance at the level of the government and its use of the state in nefarious ways. And then we have a crisis of the elites in the society who are not prepared to go after this government with the vengeance and the energy that they've gone after previous governments, in particular African Guyanese-led governments. There's a kind of hypocrisy and rascality in this society that knows no bounds. And it is incumbent upon people like myself to have to point that out. I'm not saying that the people, the masses are not fault, because a lot of times you all defend these leaders. And I don't mind you defending your leaders. But when your leaders are at fault, they cannot be defended. They cannot be defended. There's no reason why the PNC and the AFC leadership should not be up in arms on this issue. Where is the vote of no, the motion of no confidence? Where is it? The PPP moved the vote of no confidence against Granger for far less than this. There was no reason for them to move a vote of no confidence against Britain, but they did it. And here you have a government committing the worst crime against the people of this country, and their supporters are busy fighting one another. I say no more.
Thank you. So I did ask the question, what are the implications of this government facilitating
I just gave you the implications. The implications that it is brought out into the open, the clear crisis in our society, a crisis that this government is complicit in, and that our opposition and other elites in the society are not prepared, willingly or unwillingly, to confront. It's a crisis.
Is it the kind of exposure that can see the fall of the government? I know you mentioned it's a time.
Government cannot fall. Government cannot fall unless people want it to fall. A government don't say, I won't fall.
The question was asked of me yesterday, whether or not a private citizen can file a no confidence motion against the government. Is it possible, or it's dependent solely on the parliamentarians?
The parliament. The parliament is the branch of government that can do that. It's the co-equal branch of government that is supposed to be a check on the executive.
All right, following up.
The parliament, a citizen can move to the court. A citizen can move to the court.
Following the exposures, we saw that the permanent secretary was sent on leave immediately. We also saw that the same individual resigned from the executive of the PPP. And we heard that this resignation in particular was not to bring the party in disrepute. We also know that one of the other persons accused by the US in the scheme, Shell Mohammed, is a counselor, I think, on the Eccles Ramsburg NDC, under the auspices of the PPP. He has not been made to resign. Double standards?
No, I really don't think those things are neither here nor there. I got a friend named Pudding from Buxton, where you are there. Pudding, when me knock you, me and Kay almost apology afterwards, me don't knock you. It doesn't matter what the government does now. It doesn't matter. What the government is doing is to paper over. What the government is doing is to try to say, as the Attorney General said yesterday, that this is not a big deal. It's not a big deal. And, this is just a little thing. Guyana is not going to be harmed by it. And governments do that. And that is why I'm not putting the onus on the government to police itself. Clearly, the government cannot police itself because the government itself is complicit in the crime. And so the policing has to be done by the other elites in the society.
I'm happy that you said the government can't police itself because, again, we saw Jagdu saying that investigations will be launched or have been launched by the varying arms of state, GRA and Guyana Police Force and Customs and so on. I think you've answered the question basically to say that you don't have any confidence in any such investigation, do you?
Is the state going to investigate itself? The police is going to investigate itself? Is Jagdio, the government, going to investigate the state? Who are they going to use to investigate the state? Are they going to use Freedom House functionaries to investigate the state? The state agencies, there are state agencies that are investigative agencies. And the very investigative agencies are complicit in the crime. And so therefore no investigation is going to yield anything. The investigators themselves are complicit in the crime insofar as the state agencies are the investigators. So when Jack Joe talks about investigating, who gonna investigate the state? The state itself. They're there to investigate the crimes of government. But the government has involved the state in crime. And you've reached the point where the government has to go. The government has to go if there is going to be any redemption.
Thank you, Dr. Hines. Let me turn your attention to another issue of, I would say, national importance. And that is what seems to be a ramping up of the use of the ERC and the Guyana police force to go after social media influencers and political activists using this Cybercrime Act and something to do with racial hostility as governed by the ERC. Of course, you have seen, everyone has seen me being arrested. I also received last evening, I think I went into my email and I saw an invitation from the ERC to go and discuss with them whatever it is they want to discuss in relation to maintaining, I would say, racial peace or ethnic peace in the society. All of the mandate that the ERC has, because I have a list of the mandates based on a statement that came out of them in the same matter that I'm before the courts for. When I look at them, I don't see them applicable to Indo-Guyanese who have made some very, 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 very frightening and disturbing statements. The ERC has not gone after those people, but it would appear as though the ERC is only interested in going after mainly African Guyanese. What are your thoughts, your observations on the way the ERC is being used in the PPP's political campaign of victimization?
Like the police force, like the public service, like the army, the ERC is an arm, an institution of state. And the PPP has shown that it is prepared to use these state institutions to carry out its narrow partisan agenda. That is what the ERC is doing. The ERC reported you to the police. And the ERC is now writing you to tell you, come, let's talk about how we can correct the wrongs in society. Let it go to there. And I can't say it on your program what I want to say. The ERC cannot be prosecutor and mediator at the same time. Can't be. You cannot be the prosecutor for the government. And then when you prosecute a man, you report a man, he's charged wrongfully, he's wrongfully charged, you write and tell him he can help you to bring about ethnic peace in the country. No, no, no. The ERC is compromised. The ERC is compromised in the way in which the PPP has compromised all the state institutions in this country. And so therefore, the ERC cannot be a credible arbiter clearly in any society in which there's ethnic division, an ethnic conflict that is fueled by the state itself, the government and the state. This is not a case where citizens are, fighting among themselves, different ethnic groups. That happens in all societies. But the state in this case, which is supposed to be the mediator of conflicts, whether that conflict is between families or between individuals, or between groups in the society, or between parties in the society, the state should be a mediator. That is why we set up the state and government. But when the government and the state are part of the problem, they cannot be the people who are mediating to solve the problem. There's a breakdown of the state in Guyana. Breakdown of the state in Guyana. So the ERC is talking about hate crimes and hate speech. No, hate speech been there from the Noah was a scout. And hate speech will be there long after you and I are gone. The problem is, how do you contain hate speech? And the way you contain hate speech is to get to the causes of the hate speech on both sides. On African side, on the Amerindian side, on the East Indian side. What are the causes of this? And the causes are what people perceive. What people perceive, rightly or wrongfully, what people perceive as an assault on the dignity of their groups. And so hate speech encourages, facilitates counter hate speech. And so the way to deal with hate speech in the society is to get to the very causes of the hate speech. If this government were to roll back its discrimination against Africans, Africans would not be compelled to say things and to express themselves in aggressive tones. And if this government were to say to its supporters, we have erred, we are not doing right by our African brothers and sisters, they have a right to be peeved, then Indian Guyanese supporters of the government will be less inclined to engage in hate speech. This government is setting people against people, group against group, family against family. And the result of that is going to be what they're calling hate speech. The government is the problem. They are the problem. And so therefore, what the ERC is doing is merely trying to pull a wool over people's eyes. I, for one, will not be cooperating with the ERC because I think the ERC has no moral mandate to ask me or any people who follow people like me about how we end hate speech. They are part of the problem. They are part of the problem. If they look at your program and they recognize that there are inflammatory rhetoric on your program, and you are saying, look, I am not in favor of inflammatory rhetoric, the ERC should come in to help you. But instead of helping, what did they do? They call the government, the bosses, and the bosses call the police and tell them jail you. And then they're calling you to tell you to help them, then they go to hell. And hell is probably a too nice a place for them.
Thank you. You're tuned to the Guyanese Morning Time. It is 12 minutes to the 8 o'clock hour. We're talking with Dr. Hines on several issues in the Guyanese society. And, we're just talking about the ERC and the role of the ERC. And I don't know, you remember we had the Guyanese government had established the Ministry of Social Cohesion. Had this government been serious about cohesiveness in the society, I don't think they would have closed the Ministry of Social Cohesion and rely strictly on the ERC to do what the ERC does. Is the closure of the Ministry of Social Cohesion a great loss to the Guyanese society, or the other?
It's not a great loss. It's not a great loss. It's not a great loss. I was associated with the Ministry of Social Cohesion for about 3 months before Amnali fired me. I've never said it publicly, but I'm saying it here this morning. I was associated with the Ministry of Social Cohesion for about 3 months, and Amna Ali, who was the minister, fired me. And she fired me because I was critical of the government giving itself 50% raise or whatever percent they had given themselves. And she fired me and reportedly said, who paid the pipers must call the tune, whatever it is. And I want the public to know that, because I hear Jack, you always say that I had a big cushy job with the government. For all of 3 months, Amna Ali fired me, the minister. And to this day, I never got a dismissal letter. I just realized that I was no longer part of the thing. All right? So I want to make that disclaimer. No, I do not believe that governments who themselves are part of the problem can bring about social cohesion. But you can set up a mechanism to do so. And the Ministry of Social Cohesion, as far as I was concerned, if I had anything to do in a prolonged way with it, my plan was to try to advise that the Ministry of Social Cohesion sets up independent institutions in the society to try to bring about social cohesion, not the ministry. The ministry has no business, because the ministry is partisan. But it should have set up independent institutions. And if you're having social cohesion, which read another way means ethnic cohesion, racial cohesion, you can't have it in a vacuum. Who are you trying to make cohesive? You're trying to make Amerindians and Africans and Indian Guyanese, Portuguese, Chinese, mixed people. We are trying to bring about a cohesive society. And you have to involve them and their institutions outside of the political process in this process of cohesion. Governments cannot lead the cohesion. Governments are partisan. What governments can do is to set up institutions that can drive the cohesion. And that was my vision for the Ministry of Social Cohesion. But before I could do anything, Amna Ali fired me because I was critical of our government. All right? And so the Ministry of Social Cohesion, Amna Ali moved out from there and went over to Ministry of something else. I never thought she was interested in social cohesion in the first place, right? And so the ministry never carried out its mandate. So the fact that the government closed it down, we have not lost anything. We have not suffered anything, all right? So I want to make that clear. But I also want to say it was a good initiative that the government had taken in terms of signaling that the government was interested in this subject. They never carried out the mandate. The ministry was never allowed to function. Because I'm saying somebody like myself, who has an interest in racial cohesion, who has some knowledge about race, and so on, was not allowed to function in that thing. And I don't know whatever happened, but they never carried out any mandate. So the government came in and they just closed it down. The initiative was good, but they never carried out the initiative in any serious way.
Thank you. Thank you again. You know, on the issue of the ERC and social cohesion and hate speech and so on, we have observed, at least those of us in the WPA have observed the PPP2 Jagdiot, the weekly press conference, attempting to pin a label on the WPA as extremists and perhaps clear and present danger for democracy in the Guyanese society. Address that for us.
Well, look, parties like the WPA have always had to grapple with that tag. It has been there because of the circumstances under which we came into being. the parties like the WPA came out of Revolution for the Black Power movement of the 60s and the 70s, and the cry for social justice, the cry for fundamental change in the society gave rise to parties like the WPA. And so the WPA has never been your kind of traditional party in the ways that, let's say, the PNC and the PPP, which came out of a different era. They came out of the era of the anti-colonial struggle, and the anti-colonial struggle, the struggle for franchise, the struggle for self-government. And so logically, those parties are geared towards running for office and governing. It's very straightforward. Those parties never tell anybody that they're interested in revolution. And by revolution, what I mean is fundamental changes in the society that is moving from one order to the next order. We just had the whole thing about Negro being left on the books. And that's just an example of parties like the old traditional parties. They weren't interested in getting things like Negro off the book. That's not their thing. Their thing was simply to run candidates, win elections, and govern. And so therefore, the parties coming out of the second process, and that is the period of Black Power and so forth, those parties were more concerned with certain things. And so therefore, there was always if you will, a conflict between the two types of parties that our Guyana and Caribbean has produced. On the one hand, the traditional electoral machines as represented by the big traditional parties, the PNC, PPP, PNM, PNP, and so on. And then the other set of parties which were geared towards more transforming the society. And of course, those parties were in conflict with each other, and that played itself out over 2 or 3 decades. And we've come to the point where all those parties are now at the same place. The age of revolution has passed, and the age of a purely electoral gaze on society has also passed. So parties like the PNC and the PPP are forced to deal with issues that they never had to deal with before. You see, the PNC now has to deal with the fact that its supporters, Black people, are being hammered because of their race. And whether the PNC like it or not, they have to defend their people. They were never called upon to do that in the past, right? The parties like the WPA, no, cannot just talk about revolution and so on. They also have to talk about some practical things in the society. How to govern, how do you deal with things like elections, all right? And so therefore, all the political parties in Guyana and the Caribbean have now come to a place 60 years after independence where they have to deal with some common issues. And so the attempt to pigeonhole the WPA as extremists and all that kind of stories is old. It's old thing. The WPA has gone past that. We unequivocally accept elections as a legitimate way of removing governments. In the 1970s, we felt that we could have removed governments by means other than elections. That is no longer the case. We have to, as we have done, we have embraced elections as a legitimate way of removing governments. It means, therefore, that like all other parties, we have to be prepared to participate in elections. We, as a party, will accept the results of elections that are free and fair. It is not new. We have embraced that since in the 1980s. And so it's old, but we need to restate it because there is an attempt to say that we are anti-elections and things. And sometimes we are not very good at articulating our view on elections, you know, and I want to make it very clear. We accept elections as the legitimate way of changing governments. And we will accept the results of any free and fair elections. That's 2. 3, we are in principle participating in elections. In principle. Now, whether we participate in elections that we don't think will be free and fair is another question. Whether we participate in elections on our own or as part of a coalition is another question. But we are committed to participating in elections because we see it as the legitimate way of changing governments. So, like every other party in Guyana, we are beginning to put in place arrangements for our participation in elections. If someone is asking me today, are you going to participate as part of a coalition on your own? We have not reached that point yet. If you don't get biometrics and a clean voters list, are you going to participate? We have not reached that point yet. But we are preparing because, as we said, we are committed. We are committed to elections as a means of changing governments. And so, therefore, we are preparing. So, in case there is any doubt in the minds of those who support us and even those who are not supporters, I want to lay that to rest. Those of you in this audience and in the wider society who would like to get a chance to put your X for the WPA, whether by itself or as part of a coalition, you will get that chance in principle. All right? If you want a chance to vote for Kidaki Amsterdam or Dion Abrams or Takuma Ogunse or even David Hines, you will get that chance. We don't know what will play out in 2025. There are outstanding matters, biometrics, a clean voters list. Those are conditions that all of the opposition is saying that must be in place for elections. Now, if we don't get those conditions, are we going to participate in elections? That's a pragmatic decision that all parties will have to make. So we're not answering that question now. If you're asking, is the WPA going to participate in the next election? We are preparing to do so. Will we accept the results of a free and fair election? Yes, we will. So we want to make that absolutely clear. We know that in the air, there are parties who are engaging in party congresses. The PPP just had their congress. The PNC is having theirs. The AFC is having theirs. And we are in the process of moving in that direction. We are beginning shortly consultations with our members, consultation with people who are wishing to join the party. We are going to consult with you in a short while. And so we are having what we call these consultations with our constituencies. And out of those consultations, we are moving to a members' conference where we will elect office bearers of our party. And so the answer is that the WPA is like any other party in Guyana. Despite our different orientation, we are doing like any other party. We are moving, as we said, our approach is different. As I said, we are going to begin consultation shortly with our constituencies, what we call the clusters of the party. And coming out of those consultations, we are going to move to a members' conference, elect our party officials like any other party. The big difference may be between the WPA and other parties. We are committed to elections, but we do not believe that a society or a party should wait on every 5 years to bring about change in society. In between elections, the WPA is committed to working for change in the society. As I said last night, in between election, whichever government is in office, we have to manage that government if it behaves bad. We do not believe we have to wait until 5 years to manage that government. The government has to be managed in real time. So our commitment is to election as a means of changing governments. But in between elections, our commitment is also to fight governments, to get them to stop taking advantage of people and to bring about change in the society. So I wanted to make that clear statement. You're going to hear more from us as the weeks go by, but that's where we are at the moment.
Thank you, Dr. Hines. Of note, the WPA is committed to accepting elections results that come from a process of free and fair elections. What if those elections are deemed not free and fair?
We will not accept results of elections that are not free and fair.
Thank you. It's now 5 minutes past 8 o'clock. It's usually the time when we open up the lines. Dr. Hines, is there anything else you want to address before I do so?
I think I've said enough.
Thank you. 6225933 is the number to call. You tune to the Guyanese Morning Time. Call and let's talk the thing. And while you're calling to talk the thing and so on, remember the Cash App. It's $CAMS TV, right? $CAMS TV. I usually like to quote my friend. Sherrod said this thing don't run for what, you know, we don't run for win, right? We ain't gonna win for we. Yes.
And while you're in, there's a $BUX. That's for politics 101.
$BUXT.
BUXT.
Call in every morning.
Good morning to you, Gaddafi, and good morning to Dr. Hines. Dr. Hines, I do not want to be public, but I have been sending some things to you.
I have got them, Rhonda. Rhonda, I have got them. Rhonda, I have got them. I've gotten them, Rhonda. Please go on to your other point.
Yes, all right. Well, my artists, anyway, I'm going to continue. Yes. Now, Dr. Hines have spoken a lot of things. One of the things that attract me is with the utterance of the Vincent saying that this thing with the sanctions and so, it ain't really got no effect, you know. He is going to preach that the people you know, America could have sent a country-wide sanction and close down Guyana entirely and have us like other countries that they sanction. But remember that his ESO expiration and Exxon is America. And they know if they close down the whole Guyana, that oil business would be in jeopardy. Hence, they didn't do the entire closing down, sanctioning of the country. Last night, I listened to another set of mark where an American person was explaining on Mark's show the inclusivity of the sanction, where a lot of ministries and government departments are under this sanction thing. Because if this sanction wasn't as powerful as the Attorney General is trying to say, Bank of Guyana would not have pulled the license, the cambio license from the embattled team. That would have been going because that is Bank of Guyana. But there is where we see that the international people got so much of cleavage that they could order Guyana main bank, thus being Bank of Guyana, to sever all connections with this embattled person. That tells of a big story. Dr. Hines, I hope that the opposition could take your advice to file the no confidence. Even if the no confidence vote will go nowhere in the government, it must be in record that they have filed no confidence, because the opposition failing to file a no confidence motion in this big story, they will look like they are complacent with what is going on. And they will be signaling to the outer world that should I gain the position of becoming the ruling party as a governmental ruling party, I myself will walk down such a road as what my predecessors have done and don't see it as crime. The ERC that is trying to gain Kadaki be watchful, because the ERC realized that the only program in Guyana that has a calling segment that could put out all the ills of what is going on in this country now, it is your program. And the moment should you walk into the ERC and they give you guidelines on how to run your program, and you go contra to the guidelines that they are going to give you to suppress people like me and Coffee and Flash and other writing, because I don't know the names of the others, but many other persons would come on the program and give valuable comments that we can all sit down, go through and make a better way. So that is what the ERC is calling you to govern your thing. And once you go, they will say he was here and these are the orders, and he is still going contra to what we told him to do. And there is where the thing. They want to ruin and suppress African people views. There is nowhere in Guyana where our views can be aired. We had another call-in program in the form of send your voice notes. Automatically and eventually that program was being pulled from the media. So we don't have a place. And Kadaki, you know, you might have want to play your mother and I can't be your mother and this and that. But I think this is where you have got to know what you will do. And I don't think that the ERC has any good for African people. Now when we go through, they talk about the one this, the one that. With all, Barnum was a dictator. Barnum said the Amerindian people are the indigenous people. He used the word Timeri, that was an indigenous or Amerindian name, to call the airport. At least these people must have something. When he was in power yesterday, when I was a small girl, would not have been a national holiday Monday, because Jagan was in power as an Indian and he never fight for his own religion, Pagwa or Diwali, to become a national holiday. Barnum was the person who gave them those 2 days as holiday, and he gave Muslim holidays. So why now is our people talking about Barnum? You want leaders who could see a way forward for all concerned, not leaders who are destroying one group to bring up another group. The only time, soon as the PPP or elects like the PPP hear that money should be given to the Africans in the form of apology, look what they got about it. And that opening statement is that in front is a Muslim. If in front was a Muslim, Tadaki, he would never have allowed his child to be governed by a godmother. A Muslim, when they get the children, at a certain time, there is a thing what they call the prayer or azaners. I don't know the real name, but they said that it does whisper in the child's ears, both ears, the call of prayer. They do not give them God parents. So right away it tells you the person who is supposed to be there, the installed thing, is not a Muslim, Papa.
Thank you for your call. Caller, you're live. Good morning. Caller, you are live. Good morning.
Yes, good morning to you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Good morning to you and all my other African brothers and sisters in Guyana. Mr. David, I love to give credit where credit belongs to. Well done, my brother. Well done. I just feel so happy when black men could stand up and mention Bonham's name. You see, I love the word remember. That is what God teaches me. He said, Fred Garden, remember this day, which thy Lord thy God has brought you out of the hands of bondage. Why? Because he wants us to always remember the good and the bad thing and talk about both. I'm glad that you mentioned Bonham's name. And the last time when I said, Mr. David, this is not you. You get sad because you've inspired me from a young man to listen to politics and learn about politics with the help of my grandmother. And I said, yes, I saw. Because if you could face Bonham, and if you could accept the penalty from Bonham, you qualify to be a leader anytime after Abinati. You'll not just come. I love to listen to you. And you are very, very intelligent. I wouldn't say you're smart. You are a wise young man because my grandma teach me, don't be smart because most times smart people end up in the grave and jail. And you are a wise man. You know, I listened to Rutherford last night. But I ask a question. Let Rutherford come on this program and answer Flat Garden question. Take up in Flat Garden. Let me tell Rutherford to say, whenever you become a leader, you will have to give out blank check. Because majority leaders in the world don't give out blank check. And what you did was totally wrong for your leader and your party talking, gossiping about blank check, and you want to be leader. But answer my question. What do you know about Muhammad giving money to Congress under whosoever was leader from 2010? I talk about it, nobody paid me no mind. About 2010 to 2015. Did you know anything? And don't say nothing. And if you know, why you did not put a stop to that? When we all know that Muhammad was under investigation with the government. And Mr. David, I approach with this say, the problem is not Muhammad. Muhammad can't pay for e-crime. But see that why they're talking about blind check under Mr. Abinati leadership to make it look bad. You got to let me know what you know about who was leader, who was treasury, how much money you guys taking, because it's going to shame on you guys come next election because Jack Dio got all information. Who and who was given money, who criminals was given money. Last before we go. This law that put my friend Amsterdam in the lack of a couple of days. Why no leader in Guyana, no lawyer in Guyana did not go through that law and said, no, coalition, Amsterdam, understand, don't pass law. He's going to cripple citizens in this country. No liar did not see the damage from Islam. Ramadan did not see it before he went to parliament. I could remember Mark. Mark said one time on the program that either he called and begged Ramadan, don't do that. Don't put that law there. I could remember Mr. London, Pastor London. He gave an explanation of the law. He said that law that if you only watch the president's song, probably the law could put you in jail. Nobody, no lawyer. Amanda did not go through that law. Figure Princess Garden. It's because they knew that they could make money off of that law. Because when the government uses the law on the opposition them and poor people have to take them to represent them, and they will make money. That is very bad. We got to stop this nonsense. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your call. Any comments or points?
No. Self-explanatory.
Call your life.
Good morning, my blessed awesome and wonderful brothers, Dr. Hines.
Morning, neighbor, morning. Hello, hi. How y'all do? Morning. Welcome to another program of Guyanese Morning Time. I am your host, Kidaki Amsterdam. It is 7 hours 32 on the 20th day of June in the year 2024. It's Thursday. Usually we have Mr. Jordan on the economy. Yeah, Jordan on the economy on Thursdays. And so I know I've just come here. I'm not late. I'm usually deliberate. I allow you to hear a lot of yesterday's program because I think it has some nuggets to you, or lots of nuggets to you. And sometimes, they say repetition is the best teacher. I'm going to try to get Mr. Jordan on the line shortly, and so we can proceed with the program. But how are you doing? How are you been? How was I yesterday? Last night? What went on this morning? I understand there's a fire in, that might be South Georgetown area. The people are lamenting again that the fire service, as we like say, the fire engine turned up with no water. When you hear these things, you have to reflect that that's a failure of government again. People don't like when you identify these things, but that's a failure of government. Because government, any sensible and right-thinking government would understand. Any people doing proper city planning and so on would understand that fires happen, disasters happen, and you have to prepare for them before they happen. What has happened to having at least one fire hydrant in a block? I grew up knowing that there were at least one fire hydrant in a block. So the tenders turn up with 5 million gallons of water according to the capacity. I don't know, 500,000 gallons of water. I don't know what the capacity of those tenders are. But I know that water in the tenders will get exhausted in about a minute or two. It is only intended to start the job of outing the fire or containment while they connect to the readily available source in the fire hydrant. But hey, we're going to cost the firemen, we're going to cost the chief, we're going to cost the fire chief, but we ain't costing the politicians. We're not costing the politicians. They are the failures. They are incompetent. If you have a business to run and you got an incompetent manager and supervisors, then what do? You dismiss all of them, man. The time has come to dismiss the PPP government. The cartel. They're not doing well enough. And as it just dawned on me, let me first up apologize to any anxieties caused among the friends and relatives of Bobby Ramroop. And let me say that as of today, I don't think I'll be posting anything that any of our viewers put up as accurate information, unless I can verify it immediately. Good. When you announce people's death, especially in an accident, there must be some veracity to that information. And so I must apologize. I really am sorry that I even repeated and put that thing on screen that came from the viewer that suggested that Bobby Ramroop died in an accident yesterday. Because so far that has not been confirmed to be true. Good. Let me say that. Again, no malice was intended there. It was a live program. Somebody put it up live. And I just show it because part of what we do here is share information. Good. So please, if you're going to share information with me, especially when we're live, ensure that you've at least verified it, because I wouldn't have the time to verify it on the live program. We all have a responsibility. Good. Thank you. Thank you very much. Good. We all are reporters, we all are journalists, with our smartphones. We all have a responsibility to snap it and send it. It is how we will keep government on their heels. Good. That is what we will do. So I welcome your information. I welcome your efforts, but just ensure it's accurate when you're sending it, especially, again, I'm saying, when we are live. Good. Please keep that in mind. So those things are failures of the government. And so if you have people consistently failing you, then you have to hold them accountable. One of the things I find in this society is we see too many things as small things, but small things turn out to be big things. Because when there is no fire hydrant in an area, people see it as a small thing. But when a poor family loses their home, that is a big thing. Starting over is very, very difficult. You've lost your physical home, you've lost memories, you have lost physical possessions, you have lost peace of mind. You're traumatized in many instances to the rest of your life. There's some people who had experiences with fires, and all through their life thereafter, they had anxiety issues when it came to fire. Right? So small things in the eyes of politicians, especially, a big thing to the ordinary man. And so we really have to nip these things in the bud, as we say. Don't wait until they get out. And as old people say, a stitch in time saves 9. Good? There are lots of other instances where I would suggest that we should nip things in the bud. A stitch in time would save 9. Maybe as the program goes along, we'll talk about some of those things. Good. How was I here last night? What happened? It didn't rain much last night. So those of you who depend on the rain to cool you down, I guess you were disappointed last night. But I'm sure you made it through the night. And that's a good thing. Once you make it through the night, count your blessings. Name them one by one. And it will surprise you what the Lord has done. At least that is what they told me. And I have adopted that attitude. I will always count my blessings. From the time I wake up and I smell air, it's time to give thanks. Yeah, I made it. The PPP must be shivering. Mr. Jordan.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Good morning to you, sir. It's Thursday morning.
Yes, it is.
Welcome to another program. What you got for us? What are we talking about today, by? Those investigations that should be taking place or not, or something else?
Sorry, what you said?
Are we talking about those investigations that were promised, or there are other things on the agenda?
But I think the first thing we got to talk about is the invasion of the mosquitoes. It might sound flippant, but it's real.
Oh,
Mosquitoes all over the place, man. You know, and I don't think the government is taking this thing with the seriousness it deserves.
No, because weeks ago when I raised it on this program, the government representative in Miranda Brown said, I clean my drains so mosquitoes don't bother me.
But you know, I mean, I found such things to be, you know, really laughable.
Of course they are.
If your mosquitoes are flying is a movable insect, you know. Rats are a movable insect, you know. So you can have the cleanest of clean place. And if your next door neighbor and your surrounding neighbors don't have the same cleanliness, mosquitoes don't decide that well, they are going to dwell in your neighbor's place only. So some of those things are as asinine as they come. Really. The point though is that this mosquito situation is beyond control. You can't even sit down. You can't read. You can't study. You can't do anything in peace. There's an invasion of mosquitoes. And I mean, I've been able to put nets around my windows and so on, but it doesn't help because, again, as you said, once you have an open space or something, mosquitoes will be streaming in, you know. And these things what they call bacon and hop and all these things that they're selling are useless to the mosquitoes. In fact, those mosquitoes watching them and sucking the teeth and moving on to suck your blood. You know?
The mosquito behaving like the government and their friends.
Yeah, but I mean, seriously, I think the government needs to look at this thing. Seriously, I think I saw somewhere that brought back some memories to me where when I grew up, we used to have these public health inspectors going around in each village and town and so on, and going to every yard and so on, make certain that yards were being kept clean, and
that was the vector control unit. I remember they used to come around when they had a card that they used to stick on some part of your house.
Yes.
And it used to be marked.
And they used to walk around with a big can that
Yes.
used to pop
Yes.
and spray up and spray the different places and so on. So in many ways, even as we progress, we have retrogressed. Because these simple acts that kept you alive and kept the mosquitoes and the other creatures at bay, they have all gone. And there have been no replacement, But I think this is the first play I can make on this program. Do something about these mosquitoes, We have already had one case of dengue, one reported case of dengue, because who knows how many more cases there have been and not being reported. But we don't need another crisis. We've just gone through COVID, man. We don't need another crisis. Something has to be done about these mosquitoes. They have become more than just a pesky nuisance at the moment, Yeah, so I thought about there's so many nuisances in this society. I just don't know how we survive from day to day. But yes, the revelations on the goal, scam goal, whatever it is, keep coming out. There was a very, very erudite presentation in the form of an interview by the ambassador of the United States that put some more flesh on the bones of this emerging scandal. Really, I think some takeaways were the fact that she had said this investigation had started some 2.5 years ago. Importantly, that's post 2020. That period of time post 2020, and this investigation involved the period 2019 to 2023. Okay, so that is a new period because, as I keep saying, and as Chapman had also indicated, that the American government had given the coalition government some information pertaining to the smuggling of gold to the United States, right? And let me, as I have it before I forget, let me at least voice some comments on. That thing is called a press conference that was done last week, where Jagdeo claimed that the period 2019-2023, for which this report was done, mentioned 10,000 kilograms of gold. And he was comparing this with 15,000 ounces per week that was mentioned by Chapman. And Chapman said that information was given to him by some US authorities. And then Jagdeo proceeded to multiply 15,000 ounces per week by 52 weeks and claim that smuggling under us, the coalition, was far greater than the period that was mentioned, the 10,000 kilograms. Well, sometimes when you don't do homework, I will put it down to not doing homework or not understanding context or not comparing apples and apples instead of trying to compare apples with oranges. The 10,000 kilograms of gold, as we all know, was mentioned in respect of one dealer going to one destination. One dealer going to one destination, United States. The 15,000 ounces of gold was in respect of the entire country per week. The 15,000 ounces of gold per week was in respect of the entire country. Smuggling out of that was being done in the entire country and not going to one destination only. Not going to one destination only. So Jagdeo attempted to compare oranges with mangoes. And two different fruits. They grow differently, they taste differently, they smell differently, and everything else. But just to make some incredible point, instead of dealing with the issue at hand, the issue at hand is not who did better and who did worse. The issue at hand is that we have a serious problem impacting our national economy. That is the issue at hand. And we must be able to propose solutions instead of errantly going into a blame game. Who did less? Who did more? Man, you in government. You in government. However you reach there, you in government. And it's you who have to be able to provide the policy solutions and implement them. So this whole, as I said, the whole issue that has been brought to the fore because America has imposed sanctions is a wake-up call as well as an opportunity to do sweeping investigations, examinations, and so on, with a view of short, medium, and long-term implementation to make the sector more viable, more efficient, and effective sector. And that is what is missing. That is what is missing in all of it. The government rushed out to cancel the confidential cambio license. They rushed out to do it. Now, had it been other circumstances, I'm sure the owner of that license would have gone to court already, because the way in which the cancellation was done. It is widely believed that the cancellation did not follow the legal procedures for such cancellation. It is widely believed that in accordance with the law, the owner of that license was not given the opportunity to be heard. It is widely believed and said elsewhere that the holding of the license was property, and that to take away the license in the manner in which it was taken away was tantamount to an expropriation of property. Well, those are issues. You know, the owner of the license, if he wishes, he can pursue. I can't say anything about whether he's going to pursue it or not. But notwithstanding the fact that the sanctions are being put in place, and notwithstanding the fact that as a government we have to move to protect the economy and the state, we must do so within the confines of the law. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. We must do so within the confines of the law. And if the law doesn't provide for it, then it must be an opportunity to amend the law. Which is what this sanctions is giving us, the government, the opportunity to look at the whole sector, examine the entire sector, not this microorganism called Mohammed's, but it gives you the opportunity to examine the entire sector and how we could make that sector a better contributor to the economy in the legal and other manner. Now, it is known that Mr. Mohammed has extensive dealings in the economy. He's into quarrying, he's into gold, he's into shopping mall, whatever else. So when you say, oh, that the Americans have sanctioned him and his businesses, what impact will that have on the economy of Guyana? It cannot only be the confidential cambio story. I would dare say that Mr. Mohammed has bank accounts in Guyana, because you can't be moving so much cash and so on lots of it not going through the banking system. So what is the implication of the bank for the banking system? Will he be asked to close all of his accounts in the domestic banks because they don't want to be corrupted or they don't want to be sanctioned by America and so on? Would he be asked to do that? And what will be the impact of him? He owns quarry and he's into quarrying business with a Chinese company. Where would that stand? Would his quarrying license be pulled? And since I think it's a partnership, what is the implication for the partner who's with him? Of course, he's into gold. So in gold, he has to have several different licenses. One of them is a dealer's license that is normally issued by the gold board to allow him to be able to buy and sell gold. What will happen to that license? Have we heard anything about it? And then he has to have an export license to export gold. What will happen to that license? In other words, then we rush to do something called trading in foreign currency. And if we were so concerned about the impacts on the economy, the critical area of the gold, that is what he has been sanctioned for, was not touched in the Russian. So I think you see, sometimes when we are pressed into this corner, we tend to do things that are irrational without having the opportunity to study it. Okay? And I'm sure a day or two in which you call in all the different agencies that might potentially have an oversight into the impact areas, and you got a sense of what you can do. Then on the third day, you could have, or fourth day, or by the end of the week, you could have been able to put into the public domain a list of actions that will be taken to ensure the economy. But you rush out to cancel the Cambio license. Again, as I said, it appears as if it was not done in the proper manner. And you have all these other tentacles in the economy that you're not sure, or the public is not aware of what is going to happen. And then, of course, the sanctions spoke about a network as opposed to just 2 individuals or 3 individuals. It spoke about a network. So what is the government doing about conducting its own investigations? I mean, telling us that you have asked for information. Telling us that you have asked for information, you have asked the Minister performing the functions of finance and the Commissioner General, they have written the decree and they have written whoever else requested information. Are you suggesting that you are waiting on that information before you can conduct your own thorough and not an examination? Because for me, whatever information you get, if you get any, can only supplement what you are expected to be doing internally. Because as you know, gold doesn't only go through the airports to American ports. There are a lot of other areas where gold goes through and leaves this country. So it calls for an in-depth examination of the sector and all the oversight agencies, regulatory and oversight agencies. I do recall in my own time as Minister of Finance, where I had called into question the operations and functions of the Guyana Gold Board in the whole context of policing the sector, supervising the sector, regulating the sector, and also assisting in the minimization of the smuggling. I had called into question. We had lots of interactions. I had lots of interactions with the Minister of Natural Resources and other ministers. And there were a number of cabinet sessions over these matters. I think paper was developed. I think there were some amendments to the regulations, I think in 2019, as such. But I don't know, well, we didn't stay around long enough to find the effectiveness of some of the actions we have taken. Clearly those actions did not stem the magnitude of the loss in the gold sector. But one of the things I was indicating was that the gold board, which was established by the Gold Board Act, I believe was 1981. Yeah, I'm thinking I was up in here. Yeah, I think it was 1981. But I know the Gold Board came into effect 1982. So that would make it 42 years the Gold Board is in operation. With more or less the same structures, with more or less the same objectives, and so on. In a sector that is highly dynamic, in a sector whose appearances and so on have changed. And think about it, when the Gold Board was established in 1981, Ghana was in a parlous state. Ghana's economy was in a parlous state. Foreign exchange generation was at an all-time low. I don't think you were born yet, Kidaki. You were born in 81?
Yes, sir.
Oh, good. But you didn't have an understanding about the economy and hungry and them sort of thing, right?
Yes, sir. Thank you for the compliment. You're like the media that said when they reported the story with me the last time, they said I'm 46 years old. So it's either this 46 grazing in bad pasture or my 50 plus grazing good pasture. I know it's which one.
but so one of the principal aims of establishing the Gold Board around that time was to supplement the foreign exchange ordinance. That we had, that we were getting. As I said, foreign exchange ordinance, anybody could check the records and see the foreign exchange around that time was an all-time low. In fact, the whole economy was in a mess. The whole economy was in a mess. We were speaking to the IMF. Unfortunately, we didn't get an IMF program until I think it was 1990, I think. Right? But since then, our economy was it. And so the Gold Board was established under those kinds of conditions. In fact, part of the thing about the Gold Board that I was quite, as a finance person, I was quite against, was the whole business of buying gold at the selling price, at the selling rate of exchange, at the US dollar selling rate of exchange. Buying gold of different purities, because you obviously would not have had all the different equipment and so on. So you could buy gold at, I don't know, 90%, 92% purity. When it smells gone down to 88 or whatever the case may be, you buying this gold at spot price. London daily fix price. So you think about it. Somebody comes in to sell the gold at the Gold Board today. Let us say the London fix or the price at the time was 2,000 US an ounce. So you pay this person the 2,000 less whatever fee they were supposed to pay. And then you give them Ghana dollars at the selling rate. Of course, you know there are three rates at the banking system. There's the buying rate. That is the rate at which you sell your US dollars to the bank. And that is the lowest of the three rates. Then there's the selling rate. That's the rate at which you purchase foreign currency from the banks. And as you know, that's a very high rate, or certainly a rate that is higher than the buying rate.
Yes.
And of course, the mid rate is add the 2 and divide by 2, you get the mid rate. You add the buying rate and the selling rate, and you divide by 2 and you get the mid rate. So you are buying gold from somebody who walks into the gold board today. You're buying it at, say, the 2,000, which is today's price for the gold. And you're giving the person the Guyana dollars at the selling rate of the commercial bank of the day on which you're selling, of which you're giving him the Guyana dollars. Then the gold board holds this gold, speculates on it. And when it does decide to sell, because it's speculating, hoping to get a higher price than the 2,000. But when you sell, when you do that now, you smell this gold, instead of 90% purity for which the person had that is 2,000, it ends up being, say, 88 or 89. So the gold board loses there. Then they're holding the gold, waiting for high price. If the high price doesn't come, you're forced to sell at a lower price. The gold board loses again. So you buy the gold at 2,000, now you're supposed to sell at 1,900 or 1,800. The gold board loses again. And then when the money comes to Guyana and you receive the money, the gold board gets the money at the buying rate, the Guyana dollar buying rate, not the selling rate. The buying rate, which is the lower rate. So the gold board loses again. So this is a sweet deal. This is a sweet deal for the miners. Now, like I said, in 1981, the then government might have accommodated that because the earnings of the foreign exchange was more important than these losses that the board would eventually accumulate. But in requesting a review, I indicated our situation had changed drastically since then. But without telling any tales of school, there was not necessarily total agreement and so on. Because my idea was not for the gold board to disappear, but the gold board would have functioned in a manner of regulating the sector. Because the gold board has, I think at the moment, they have issued about 9 dealers' license. In other words, then, they've licensed 9 different people in different parts of the country who could buy gold. Who could buy gold on their behalf. So you already have that system in place. What you need to do is reroute your people to effectively police the sector. Then be drawn up into these activities where the state gets involved in these quote-unquote productive economic type activities for which, as we all know, and given Guyana's history, we weren't cut out to do. When we get involved in economic activity, it takes away a lot of our resources, limited human resources that should be targeting the policing and supervising of the sector. So that was my thing, that the whole Gold Board Act should be comprehensively reviewed with a view to making it an institution that will regulate and police the sector more effectively. And as you well know, in Guyana, you got a number of agencies that trip over each other. You have the Guyana Geology and Mines Commission already. So why not incorporate the gold activities and the geology and mines? Because after all, before the Gold Board Act of 1981, you would have had the Guyana Geology and Mines, and they would have been looking at the gold sector.
Can you say, Mr. Jordan, if at any time, I think they call that a blue paper, or was it a white paper, was ever presented?
First, you get a green, then white.
So have we had any of these papers being presented to effect these changes as suggested?
Like I said, during the coalition period, the whole issue when the smuggling of horses around that period when the 15,000 ounces are being disclosed. Right? I think it's around 2017, 2016, 2016, I think it was. Between 2016 and 2017, the whole issue of the examination of the sector and the ills of the sector and so on. We did something. We trained rangers and we employed rangers, a set of rangers that are in the sector. We, more equipment and all these things, more outstation, licensing more deals. So the number of things that were done, but the problem continues to be the policing of the sector. And this has to be done in conjunction with places like the GDF, the police, and all this kind of thing, because gold goes through our porous borders.
Mr. Jordan, I mean, I don't know if you could see my face, but I laugh. You know why I laugh?
Right.
Asking the police and the soldiers and so on to police the sector is, as we like to say, asking cat to watch milk. Now,
No,
police
but
and soldiers, let me finish now, man, please. Police and soldiers, and I'll tell you an anecdotal story. Are being paid, let's say, $100,000 a month. You go into the mining area, the interior region there, and quick time a miner might just hand you a pennyweight of gold for shut your mouth or two, right? Are we expecting the police and soldiers to police the people who are making millions of times more than them? In the days of technology, why are we not using more technology? Let me tell you what the anecdotal story is.
Yes.
I went to a funeral the other day and I heard that in a certain interior location where a lot of gold was making, 100 ounces of gold one day. The mining operations were shut down by the rangers and police and so on and so forth. And one person who is aware of the situation said, the man is slack. The man is slack. How they going to allow the operation for shut down? You're making 100 ounces a day. You don't want to give the police nothing? Right? All they have to do is give the police a blind and the operation will continue. So I'm using that to say, like you said earlier last week, the society is small. Wages and salaries are starvation type, and so people can be easily corrupted. The interior region is the wild, wild west, as I understand it. Gold and diamond run things. I don't know the police and soldiers really and truly will be able to police that place. With I don't know, with any sense of effectiveness.
But Pidaki, remember, all of these things are allowed to happen because of the system's failure in the place. Systems fail. Look, I mean, by way of a quick diversion, I saw in the papers, for example, that there's a big now cry by another association, and quite rightly, I must say, I will tell you quite rightly, about the proliferation of non-national Chinese businesses in Guyana.
I saw it.
You saw it, right?
Yes, I saw it.
You know what made me laugh? This is an association that I've never heard of. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist. A number of the people in this association, 60 plus, they said, in this association, are members of the 3 recognized private sector bodies: the Private Sector Commission, the Georgetown Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and the Ghana Manufacturers Association. And it makes comical reading in today's papers that a number of these private sector bodies says they are unaware of the letter that has been written to Ali, seeking a meeting over this matter. But wait a minute. It's today we are waking up and watching the proliferation of non-national Chinese businesses in Guyana? Is that something today? But nothing was done about it. In fact, it was tacitly encouraged. Now it's a real problem. And now people beginning to think. Gordon Mosey on his program this morning was talking about the proliferation of businesses in the residential professional scheme area. And I laugh again. I laugh.
There's no residential area in this country anymore.
There's no residential area in this country anymore. And not by change of legislation, by the way.
That's a fact. I was passing through, was it over? Someplace I passed over the weekend, and I was sharing with a friend how the face of the community has changed from residential to majority business. And I know there's no change in legislation, and that is one of the things which plagues the city council also in terms of rates and taxes, right? The demand for services are domestic rates, but it's commercial services.
So the point I'm making, Konaki, is these institutions exist for a purpose. And we just can't throw up the hand and say, you know, the way how we have been thrown up our hands and say, something has to give. Something has to give. We seem to be proud of saying we've put in another law and we put in another law. Again, as I said, you have to laugh, otherwise you'll go mad in this country. And the state of public health and people who want to go in your brain, neurosurgery and all this kind of thing based on some of the issues that you see come out recently, you're hoping and asking God to keep you from day to day and don't make you go anywhere near some of these things you're seeing. But you have to laugh. A big ceremony yesterday about some single window or something, blah, 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 and so on. Will it work? Do you have the staff to police that thing? To answer immediately within the 48 hours, 28 hours? Do you have the electricity? Do you have the bandwidth for that system to work?
Is it intended to work?
Well, I don't know.
Or is it another electoral gimmick?
You cut ribbon, you do this, you talk about this law, put in that law, we update this law, and you update that law, and yet still the service remain as decrepit as it is. And next week I'm hoping to talk about the banking because it troubles me. And the amount of money that has been spent in putting in the national payment system and so on, that doesn't work. But you're coming back here, Graki. I was setting out this schema. And after you set that schema, now you have to go and flesh it out and then see whatever's the irritants and whatever's needed and all this kind of thing to make it function. You can't get rid of the police. Police is an institution. What you're going to need to do is minimize the bad habits. And so you have to sit down and do a complete examination of that. You can't get rid of the army. The army is an institution. And again, you have to do what you have. In other words, you can't just throw up your hand. You can't just throw up your hand. And we can't just wish away this problem like we seem to be doing. I bet you by next month, this scam, this thing here, so it's going to be last year's news. Because I see no political statement, no policy statement that says once and for all we are going to grapple with what is indeed a cancerous problem in our society. And as I keep saying, you know what is hurtful about this particular aspect of it? This is not sugar cane. Sugar cane is a grass, and grass like growing wild, and so on. This is gold that had been formed through the compression of carbon over eons ago. When you dig it out, all you're going to be left with is a massive hole, a destroyed environment, and whatever else. So you got to make certain as the authority that you get that, first of all, the practices are environmentally, they are safe, they are whatever else and so on, that the environment is not destroyed in the process, and that you get the necessary royalties, taxes, and whatnot, to make certain that the progress in the country continues. If you abdicate to responsibilities in where those are concerned, and like I said last week, and the government becomes a hostage to special interests, then this is going to be a joke. It's going to be a joke. Because you haven't seen any policy statement, political statement, and so on, and says, listen, there will be a thorough review of the sector. And while we await any information that can be provided to us from US and other authorities, we are going to be doing a complete examination of this sector with a view to reforms and so on. And they put some time-bound timelines on these particular actions that they're prepared to do. It's not going to happen. For to do that is to provoke these special interests. And like you, Kidaki, I wish for the day when they'll have campaign financing in this country. Again, not just laws on the books, but laws that can be policed for their effectiveness. Because running elections, and it's not only general elections, by the way, if you're having your congresses and all these different things, you need big money to bring down people to keep them in hotel and this and cook food and all. You need big money to hold congresses and of course you need big money to run national election. Now it's running into billions of dollars. And our parties aren't known to have people who are, the bulk of their members are struggling right now to even survive. And they're not known to have major businesses, owners of major businesses that bring in a constant stream of revenue. So they depend heavily on these special interests. And to provoke them is to deny yourself opportunities for financing. So while we advocate for the campaign financing laws and so on, again, as I said, it's not only about the law, it's about the effectiveness. We got so many laws in our books. Some of them we don't even know exist. Some of them we inherited from since 18-something. Can't build your cars in Georgetown and all kind of stuff. They're all on the books.
Is it the laziness on the part of our legislators that all of these decadent laws are still there and they're serving no purpose, except when somebody wants to really harass you? You know, is it?
Well, it must be. It must be. I mean, you set up a law review committee how many years ago or whatever and so on. I don't know what is their function. I don't know what work they have done, what have they accomplished, and so forth. I mean, a lot of these things, you set them up and then, you set them up and then you don't hear much about them anymore, But I mean, that is taken away from what we're trying to get, which is this goal issue ain't gonna go away. And next year, maybe around this time, we will be reading, if at all, about it in a different light or in the same light. And we will keep harping on the fact that gold declarations are dropping. And then who knows, next year, because you got 3 major gold mines that the government has given out contracts to. So maybe they're hoping that will come and save the day, and you'll see gold declarations suddenly start going up, and you will say, well, it's due to the policies of the government that you have now seen gold declaration improve. No. I hope we don't get thrown dust in the eye. As long as I am wrong, I make certain that dust is not thrown in our eyes. The truth of the matter is large chunks, large production of gold is taking place in Guyana, but it's not being declared. Not being declared. This is a known fact. This is a known fact, and very little is done and will be done to stem this hemorrhaging. Stem this hemorrhaging of gold from this country.
Why is it that the government doesn't seem to want to stem the hemorrhaging?
Man, I told you already, it's special interest.
Is the only thing? Well, anyhow, special interest is a broad term. Yes. Let's take it as just that.
You got to look at who owns the gold. Who are the major owners? Not them little guys who panning or little guys or little person panning for gold or the cooks and them sort of thing. Who are the major owners of the gold? The gold claims and this sort of thing. Who are the major owners? Check. Some of them got known allegiances. Some of them got hidden allegiances.
Thank you for that. Because I was thinking along that line. I mean, sometimes they say you got to read between the lines, but not everybody can read between the lines. And that is why I ask certain questions so that we can get it pellucid. As Guyanese like to say, pellucidly clear. You know, that a lot of these folks who are supposed to be the legislators and policing these industries and so on are people themselves who have direct interest in a lot of these businesses that are allowed to abuse the coffers of the state. You're ministers who got several judges and so on and so forth in the interior. Senior seniors, military people who have judges and so on in the interior and thing. And so that is why we, in my mind, will continuously have these problems. Because the people who are expected to police the sectors are themselves part of the violators in the sectors. Right? It's like the vice president saying, we have launched or we will launch an investigation into these allegations coming from the US against the Mohammeds. But when you look at the people to investigate, who are the people?
That is said to placate or to reduce the embarrassment and so on. We launch it there. What else do you expect? What investigation? What it is that you're launching? What is like going to say like the private sector commission today's papers again? We will launch an investigation in the allegations that are being made that not national Chinese businesses have expanded. I mean, as I said, you have to laugh to keep your mental health going. And what people don't understand is that prior to oil, taxes were the main financing mechanism in the country, and it will always be the main financing mechanism in every country. In every country. But guess what? Over the last 2 to 3 years, taxes are, well, it continues to be a main source of income. It doesn't seem to have the level of importance as before. And everywhere you go, you see either these leakages of taxes, the unwillingness to collect what is rightfully owned, and so on. More and more you wake up, you see more and more taxes are taken off from not the ordinary. Consider this. Since this government has come into power, it has not been able to or has been unwilling to reduce the marginal tax rate on poor public servants and other employees. I'm talking about, I shouldn't even use only public servants, on all people, on income tax. The income tax rates are the same rates that the coalition government put in since 2017. Those are the rates that are being operated at the moment. Since 2017. That we put in those rates. The government has been unwilling to reduce the marginal rates of income tax in this country. You know what they're going to want to say? We can't afford to lose the revenue. But can you imagine taxing somebody who earns 90,000 Guyana dollars? Can you imagine taxing somebody who earns that 90,000 Guyana dollars? If you earn 90,000 Guyana dollars in this country, it will be taxed. But you don't want to go after the taxes that are being owed, the massive taxes that are being owed to you out of the smuggling or out of the people who keeping 5 different books and 10 different books and all these kinds of stuff. Or you're just jumping up and hollering, look how many, houses that are going up. Look how many this are going up. Look how many that. Does that mean that all them houses that are going up? And I'm happy for people owning their own homes and them society. But your tax authority got a duty. They have work to do. But you can't burden them, or you can't give them the laws and then tell them, look behind, don't go after the X person, or look, don't touch Y person, or take a phone call from somebody. No, you can't do that. You can't do that. And you've run out of space of taxing what we used to call luxury goods and sin goods. You've run out of space luxury goods like cars. Cars that's why used to be luxury goods. Today cars considered a necessary good rather than a luxury.
But the taxes are still heavy on those.
But exactly that's what point I'm telling you. You have run out of space because it was easy to tax luxury goods like cars, right? And sin goods like tobacco and alcohol. It was easy. Because you wouldn't get you want to cry, and everybody say, yes, go tax them things. But those things have now attract a very high tax anyhow. They attract very high tax. And to tax them more is to further move them down into the underground. It's to further move them down into the underground. Now already I heard huge complaints about smuggling of tobacco again. And in fact, them talking in the last annual report, they have talked about this massive increase in smuggling again of tobacco, which clearly means large losses of revenue for the government. And the people have found ways of how to get around the stamping of the alcohol, right? Because under the coalition government, we had introduced a stamp that had to go around the cork of the alcohol, the higher alcohol beverages and so on, and people have found different ways, and there's still some smuggling of alcohol. All of this taxes the strength, it saps the strength of the revenue authority, right? And when they have to look at people who earn $90,000 and make certain to pay the tax and so on, it saps their strength. And the eye on the bigger picture is not as focused as it should be. We had those issues, but the great thing is, under us, there was a determination. There was a determination to make certain that as far as possible, everybody paid their fair share of tax. I mean, we couldn't, it wasn't expected that we would accomplish it in such a short space of time. But look at the marked results that we had in our ability to distribute that increased income without oil. It's only those who want to hide their head in the sand and where else they want to hide it wouldn't remark on the remarkable progress that was made on the coalition in a wide number of areas, not least of which have been in income. It's because of our ability to give the independence and the tools to the revenue authority to go after the taxes. And if you could collect in an amnesty, you could collect $9 billion from the gold sector out of $12 billion in the arrears. The amnesty that was given in 2018, you get $9 billion from the gold sector out of 12 billion. And where there's smoke, there's fire.
And in 2 years, if one man can be accused of
Yes,
evading,
exactly.
What's the amount?
Evaded taxes on 10,000 kilograms of gold, worth taxes and royalties of $50 million US. And we have calculated that 50 million US to be roughly 10 billion Guyana dollars.
And that's one man in 2 years.
In 4 years, 2019 to 2023, they said.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
In 4 years. That's $10 billion. That's $2.5 billion on average.
Per year.
A year.
One man.
One man. One man. And then when you think about one sector, gold sector, think about the losses in revenue. The losses in revenue.
And of course, the losses in revenue equal the losses for better living conditions to citizens.
That is correct.
How many MRI machines, for example, $10 billion could buy for the Public Hospital Corporation, because they seem not to have any.
And you look, that's why I said people sometimes they have good intentions, but they go wrong, or what they are hoping to get out of the good intentions, they go wrong in the wrong way. Why give the government a pass on the matter of MRIs and their costs when the government has a massive increase in the budget? It means that the government's priorities are ill-defined. And how much will it cost you for 10 MRIs? $100 million? Buy 10 MRIs if that is the case. What's $100 million in a billions of dollars budget? What's $100 million? Are you in there 4 years? If you bought 2 every year, that will be 8 you'll have at the end of the 4th year. 8 MRI. So this thing about we can save money and we can go fund me, I don't buy it. I don't buy it. Tell the government their priorities are wrong. You're billing regional hospitals when you don't need them. You're billing a regional hospital in close proximity to the Fort Wellington Hospital. You don't upgrade the Fort Wellington Hospital that you already have, but you're going to bill. And I remember somebody took their own discharge and had to call the ambulance and whatnot a couple of months ago to come down to Georgetown because Fort Wellington said they ain't got the equipment and they ain't got the expertise to do it. Somebody who had met an accident or some sort of thing. But you don't go to upgrade that. You build a new hospital. You go across the Region 6. The Japanese assisted you not so long ago in building a new hospital in New Amsterdam. You go cut ribbon and you praise the Japanese for assistance and all these kinds of story. Meanwhile, the one that the nice architectural one that I think was Castellani type architecture that you had, it was a Pitt Street. Those who were there from New Amsterdam on your program could, I think it was in Pitt Street or one of those streets. Now was left to rot in favor of a brand new hospital that the Japanese built. And that hospital that was built, I believe, was built, if not, I would think it's the early 2000s that it was built. Now you are going to abandon that to build a new hospital again in New Amsterdam. And while you are at it, we can build another one down the road on the quarantine. So you building all these hospitals, you're not too sure where the staff coming from and all this kind of story, maybe even import them again, right? You're building all these hospitals and you got MRI. You got MRI. And you send in a poor lady from Sophia, to go private place to get MRI and get some $5 million for some surgery that needs to be done. Where's the priorities? What priorities? Who's making up these priorities? So I'm not going to contribute to any GoFundMe and whatever else to buy no MRI for the Jackson Hospital. The government got the kind of resources that countries now are envious. But we persist. But we persist in not using those resources to the optimal benefit of our citizens. All over the place, hospitals. But you don't know how they're going to be staffed, how they're going to be maintained, by the way, because the New Amsterdam Hospital, the Japanese built just a couple of years ago, right? All the different problems you hear and so on. And even the infrastructure that they've just put in. Look at the number of schools that they've just put in. Go take a quick look at them. Even if they're not going to allow you to go through the gate, take a look outside at their appearance already. Take a look at their appearance. And some of the architecture of these schools, I wonder. You know, I have to pass the North Rhineville Multilateral School. It's not. I don't think it's open as yet. The new wing. But I look at it and I said to myself, "What the hell is this? You know, what is this? You know, what kind of architecture is this?" Take one look at it. Whenever you want to drive, you take a look at it. You're like, what is this? You know, and then you have this thing that they're blocking the breeze from the breeze side. They're coming from the east with one big canopy and all kinds of things. What on earth I need all this canopy when I might need the space?
You know, just
huge canopy.
Just yesterday, I was sharing with a friend how ministers and senior officials of government, their children get to go to school in air-conditioned buildings with segregated classrooms where there are no disturbances. Chauffeur-driven in most cases, but our children, the ordinary man's children, still go to school in these hot boxes, open spaces, no air conditioning and stuff like that. And we have resources now. We are building new school buildings, and we're not changing the design and the technology of those school buildings. And citizens are just slaying back and accepting it. So I'm happy that you raised the fact that, you know, you don't know what these architectural designs represent. Nothing like modernity as far as I'm concerned.
Definitely not. So, look, the 2024 budget will start soon, because this is June. I think circulars go out very early in July. But citizens need to be engaged. The lady that you had on your program, the owner of the other wife that you had in your program, you know, you all she's interested. I'm not political. I'm not this and that. What is wait? You have to wait. Every time you make a point of view,
you have to issue a disclaimer.
Not political. Huh?
You have to issue a disclaimer. It's not politics.
It's not politics. Listen, all things are political.
Very well.
So don't think that you're being nice. If the issue is the absence of MRI, if the issue is the treatment of these poor people, then say it. We're hoping not to offend somebody. You're going to offend them anyhow. And if you don't want to offend them, then keep quiet. And keeping quiet is what the government will bank on. Because keeping quiet says there's no dissent. Therefore, what I am doing has found favor with the citizens. The budget is coming up. Citizens are invited to send in their ideas for the budget and then make it public. Use social media, use letters to the editors, write letters to your MPs, write letters to your ministers, and so on, about what you would like to see in the budget. And if it's an issue of the MRI, tell them we want MRIs. Sound it loud and clear. What happened to all these institutions? What happened to the Doctors Association, the Nurses Association, the Pharmacy Association, the Medical Practitioners Association, whoever else are these people? Everybody just silent. And then you want to set up GoFundMe and all these things to donate an MRI to the hospital. And what we don't seem to understand us is that even when you give this piece of equipment and you cut your ribbon and all these kinds of things, one, do you have people? Let me tell you something. I was fortunate to have some medical exams done overseas. And MRI. And instantaneously, you get the results of the MRI. Instantaneously. You go through your thing and so on and so on. That call you to the office. He show you on the computer and so on. And he print out. I got a whole big envelope with all the printouts that have been done. And he show you on the point here. This time you know the hell he's showing you, but yes, here, you see this here, this thing, that thing, you're looking good here. Now, you here, you got to wait how many days and all kind of things before you can get an MRI reading it again. So something is not right. We're talking up all these things, and yes, you have to give credit where credit is due, that there have been a lot of additional facilities at the hospitals and maybe improvement, and so I haven't gone anywhere near what I've heard and so on. But you got a large number of complaints, and instead of threatening people and all this kind of stories, deal with the complaints.
Instead of making an ignorant statement like this one, Mr. Jordan, do you know if the MRIs operate themselves?
Yeah?
Do you know if the MRI operates themselves? That's a very ignorant statement coming from a representative of the government. In short, this Ignar might be saying, even if we buy MRI, we don't have personnel to operate them. Isn't it the government's responsibility to ensure that people are trained to operate them?
That's correct. And that's the point I'm making. It is because the MRI is very sensitive piece of, it's very expensive. It's very sensitive. You have to know how to deal with it. In fact, you could get wrong readings if it's not set right, if you're not still, and all these kinds of different stories. You can get wrong readings. You have to do it over, and it's going to be more expensive. You got to do it over and all this kind of stuff. Right? And doing MRI can make you uncomfortable and all this kind of stuff. So a patient has to be prepped and all this kind of thing to make certain, people are claustrophobic and all this kind of story. Right? So the point is, though, it's not how many pieces of equipment that you get or you get, it's how you use it and how it's made available, especially to the poor class people, who are the majority in this country. And of course, you have to contend with this misty electricity. It is nothing like unstable electricity to destroy an expensive piece of equipment. So you cut your ribbons today, this donor give you, and that you cut your ribbon, you thank the donor and that kind of story. And 2 weeks from now, you hear the thing ain't working. Why it's not working? You know. But when you turn it on, the lights blinking. We got to get somebody from overseas to come and look at it. And that's the end of the story. That is the end of the story. Those are very expensive pieces of equipment that require very stable electricity. And some of them also require very stable internet and all this kind of stuff. We don't have those things. We don't have those things.
Because we don't have political will, because we certainly have resources.
Right? So, there's a lot that can be said, we hear we liberalize telecoms, right? 2-3 years after liberalization of telecom, what is new? You're paying more for internet rather than less. You're paying more for internet. Everybody bringing a cable, all these different cables. Everybody got a cable come from someplace, north, east, west, south. Even government got cable. Exxon got cable. Everybody bringing a cable. But You can't get cheaper internet. You can't get stable data. Where I live, I silently cost every day. I don't cost, but I silently cost every day. They add another $460 something a month for some rental or something. And I'm paying all this fantastic money for just rubbish internet. And then got the girl for the calling me for telling me about some improves this and so on. And for that I must pay $2,000 more a month. Well, look, Aki, the good thing you got some ways of venting this.
Where does the regulatory bodies as the Public Utilities Commission come in these things? I've not heard anything from them for the longest while.
Well, because they're more interested in who heading the thing. I see they remove the chairwoman there and they put somebody else, you know. As I said, everything in this country is politics. And the regulatory and supervisory agencies now are so heavily politicized that there's very little room for maneuver and virtually no way to turn. Virtually no way to turn, you know. So as I said, you could put in all these institutions that you want, right? And you could talk about all of removing politics and all this kind of thing from them. But then who makes the appointment? Or who got to nominate? Who are they? Who are they? You know, after playing politics with the appointment of the opposition's representatives to the investment committee of the Natural Resource Fund, the representative receives a letter telling him that he has been appointed. He's finally been appointed to the investment committee, and it has been backdated to last year.
Yeah, it's fraud.
It has been backdated to last year, May, I think. May 2023 is receiving this year, 2024, that he has been appointed to the investment committee, and it has been backdated to last year. You can't beat Guyana, my friend.
Mr. Jordan, it's 11 minutes to 9. Kindly wrap up.
I'm wrapping up. No, I mean, there's so much. Listen, there's so much that you can talk on that is wrong in this society. And if you don't ventilate them, like I said, it could be like a pressure cooker, where it can just sting up inside of you and it can explode. You understand? So my thing is to keep our sanity, keep our mental health going, and ventilate these problems that we're standing, and hope that it will touch the heart of the policy makers, and we will see improvement for the kind of money that we get in. All right? Until next week.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your wisdom. I certainly enjoyed your discourses this morning, and I know for a fact the viewers did. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, so you're tuned to the Guyanese Morning Time. It's now 10 minutes to the 9 o'clock hour. It's the 20th day of June in the year 2024. We were chatting with former Minister of Finance there about the economy and other things. Marcus Johnson, you see there's a problem we got in this society. Why everybody has to start something when we all can get together and do the same thing? Right? Why everybody has to start something when we all can get together and do the same thing? I think that is a problem we have in this society, because everybody wants to be the boss. Everybody wants to be the leader. Everybody wants to be the head, right? And because of that attitude, we have a little bit here and a little bit there and a little bit there. So our people have to search all over the place for information, right? All over the place, they have to search for information. Even as you're viewing CAMS TV right now, many of you might be between CAMS TV and some other morning program. In the evening, you're between Politics 101 and some other evening program. And so you're not getting, quote unquote, a full blast of information. You can't focus on where you are and assimilate, if that's the word, what is being presented to you. And then you move on to another platform. But we don't have to, all of us have skills, All of us have something to offer, but we don't necessarily have to do it in a disjointed manner. We all can bring it to one clearinghouse. And that is why I make CAMS TV so available to basically anybody, especially on the opposition side, who wants to bring information. But let me take a break here. I have a political ad to play. And so listen up.
Comrades, in 2024, I believe that our mighty PNC needs to refocus. Our refocus should mean that we will look at where we are in terms of what's happening with our youth, what's happening with our women folk, and what are we currently doing for them. Are they happy? Are we doing enough for them? Refocusing means we have to pay attention where we are in society and the needs that we have to meet as a political party. I believe that Roysdale Ford is a leader that will help us to refocus our attention in the party for us to take on national responsibility. Comrades, our delegates who will be voting in the Congress on the 30th of June, I ask you to support the vision of Roysdale Ford as we refocus the PNCR in 2024.
You calling to go live?
Hello?
Call you live.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Amsterdam. I was listening to Mr. Jordan there. So I figure out that he recently came out of government like 4 years ago. The things that he's talking about, especially the MRI, were there 8 MRI in place that this government threw it out the window or they damaged them? I didn't get him clearly. Or if these things were never in place, like why he talking about it now? Why he didn't do it when he was there as the finance minister? Thank you, Mr. Amsterdam.
The kind of idiocy that bothers me. I'm very serious. The kind of idiocy that bothers me. And this is the same guy that always calls to aggravate my spirit with the PPP's stupidity. When Mr. John was there, we didn't get billions, hundreds of billions of dollars coming into this country as our money to start with. Right? The coalition government was attending to healthcare, and we know that. For example, I will talk about that dialysis treatment, free dialysis treatment in Bobbies all the time. Because as soon as the PPP came to government, despite the fact that they had more resources, they discontinued it. They talk about the coalition discontinuing cash grant to the children. People were living without that. If you don't get dialysis healthcare, you're going dead. They took away life-saving measures from people in Bobbies and across this country. I am sure, I'm almost sure, there would have been, as a matter of fact, let me say this. I can't speak to the MRI machinery, but I know that even in the community health centers, under the coalition, people were going to get x-rays done. Let the PPP tell me the same exists today when they have more resources. All Mr. Johnny is saying and every citizen is saying is that this government has access to resource and it has to, I would say, re-examine its priorities, and so that resources can be channeled to some of these critical areas. Which national healthcare institution should be allowed to function without such critical machinery when the government can afford it? Which they simply don't care, they're callous, and they don't want to put these systems in place at the public hospital where people can access them in a timely manner at a cheaper rate or free, because they have interest in private hospitals where they can charge people a jewel and a crumb to get it done. A prime example, a young lady died for cysts. Right? Cysts in her head. I don't know what is the correct term. It was first determined to be a tumor, but they found out that it is cyst. Cerebral cyst, perhaps. Right? At a private hospital, the same professional is saying $5 million to get the surgery done. At a public hospital, it can be done free. Right? At a private hospital, it could be done right away if you pay $5 million. But at the public hospital, you got to wait 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 months. I see Selwyn Peters last night, if I remember clearly, saying that in Canada, you have to wait for years. In an emergency, in a life-threatening case, is that true, Selwyn? Call it your life.
Yeah, just the Muslims and those who are in and out of the diaspora. I wonder what some caller really, how do they think? Caller, if the API was in there just about 4 years, what you expect them to do much more than what they have done? What more could they have done? They did not have money and all these things. They didn't say they built so much new hospital and so much new hotel and all these things. Because they didn't have this money, they didn't have the vision. They were putting human being before. They were putting the Guyanese nation before. Now this government speaks with all the infrastructure. That is so nice. It's not the human being the most precious thing. It's not the citizen the most precious thing. If you can't take care of your citizen, what will happen? Now all this stressfulness is going on in this country. Enough people can start coming down with suicidal tendency, stress, depression, breaking up of home, family can be destroyed. These things lead to a lot of psychological effect to people's mind and people's heart and also people's family generation. So yeah, I got to think before we all talk. However, I want to say, oh my God, I give God praise and thanks. Because everything works for good for those that serve Him. It's amazing, Guyanese. It's amazing. Let me share my father word with y'all, and this for y'all, ponder upon y'all mind. It said, what caused argument and quarrel among you? And that's for everybody where argument and quarrel, these are the indication of the cause. Does they not come from a desire born in your lust, born in your mind? Sometimes some people pray and ask God for it. They still didn't get it because God will not give them to spread something amiss. They may even lead you astray or for destruction, for evil. Sometimes they will steal, kill, or they will still not get it. Because why? Instead, they will beat themselves with painful regrets in the end. Why I'm saying this, everything takes time. And God's time is the right time, not me and you time and my time. Our duty is to do what's right, keep standing up for righteousness. And then you're going to understand, we're going to understand what's going on, that God could do the work. If there's a pregnancy, a baby will take 9 months. There's a normal or premature, it come before, or some may go over the 9. What I'm saying to this nation is to understand everything has a process to go through. And if you force right the process of certain things, you can find yourself in calamity. That's why when somebody takes something, they got a manual telling you how to use this thing. If you go outside of it, it's called abuse. And what I'm saying, for the APN, you are warned y'all already. In this time where y'all got, the enemy will come and sow enough thorn and thistle among y'all. In this time, so Guyanese, step one in the APNU, be very careful. One question I want to ask, Mr. Gomes, who gave you the authority to do what you do? I am not supporting no wrong. I am not accusing nobody of fabricating nothing. But if you are not given consent, then what is it? Have you sell people information? Have you bargained with the enemy? What have you done, and why are you trying to sow seed to cause conflict? Everything takes time. There's a time for everything. That time will come and that will be dealt with. But you trying to cause confusion. So I'm warning the AP and you them. You have to be very careful. However, Guyanese, I am not picking up for when they say I'm not picking up from Mr. Harvey North or anything. That one speak out of that tone. I'm picking up, standing up for what is righteousness above wickedness. And what I'm saying is that Guyanese need to be calm as a dove and wise as a serpent and deal with issue. Mr. Kadaki, God bless you. God bless your program, and Guyanese, we're going to get there by the grace of God. Do not allow the enemy to sow thorn and thistle. Everything and deal with in its right way and its own time. Have a blessed day, Guyanese.
Thank you for your call. I'm sure we have some voice notes. Let me play this one. Oh. Call it live.
Morning, Kadaki. Mr. Jordan touched on that MRI machine. Do people know 8 MRI machines, the amount of jobs that thing could give? The magnet for that MRI machine. I was one who was trained by a German company, KKT, which cools cement MRI units. And I was one of the only technicians here in Florida that could have touched those chillers. And that there by itself, you could give a set of young people jobs for that, to cool in those things, because that thing is very, very, very critical. If one of those things go down, that cools the helium and the equipment is $100,000 to bring it up back. And that there could mean jobs for people. As simple as 8 MRI machines is a lot of jobs. The technicians, the refrigeration technician, and everybody, the technician that is used to read, the radiologist that is used to read those stuff and put people inside of those machines, etc., etc., etc. But you know, a government without vision, we expect they're going to send you to somewhere and wait for how many days for you to get a reading. The machine go down, you have to wait on people to come from overseas and pay a bundle of money to bring that machine back up. So that's my take for the morning.
Thank you for your call.
Morning, Mr. Kadaki. You're talking to the Carla who called earlier. Carla, you see some of y'all, why feel this country can't go good? Right? When Mr. Jordan being in there, this country don't have the resources with God now. All the oil money they're getting now, they could afford to get certain thing in place now. They don't set the asset about the place and it got to set the dirty rats, people dying every day and all these things. Why you don't come out to the place and stop what Jordan being in there and what he did and we do? He do enough that he had to do, right? So you get it straight and stop your calling and stop your nonsense. You're just listening for the program and come with a set of falsely and nonsense. You understand me? They got getting enough money that they could do nonsense. Because everybody getting contract, hairdresser getting contract, this body getting contract. I know a woman who always a hairdresser who getting contract who know nothing about road and she getting road contract. You understand? She barely used to get a little hair, a little thing. Just because she joined the party, she getting contract, billions of dollar contract, millions of dollars in her hand. You understand? Y'all need to stop this nonsense and stop calling in and talking ignorance. Y'all is really pissed me off when y'all talk nonsense. You understand? I listening and I'm getting the positive vibes.
Call her the line. We're playing a voice note. Let's complete it, please. Is that a voice note? Yeah, no, man. Call her in a minute.
All morning, and since you come with your foul play, you stop your stupidness and go so they're getting enough money from they could do the world for the country right now. Y'all left people alone.
Caller, thanks for holding.
Yes, good morning to you and all my other African Guyanese brothers and sisters.
Seems as though we missed Flash. Okay, the lines remain open. 6225933 is the number to call. It's 6 minutes past the 9 o'clock, or we may go until about 9:15 or so. Yes, remember to hop over by the Cash App and drop something. Doric, I see you. Thank you, Doric. Thank you. Thank you for going over to the Cash App there and helping us to continue to do what we do. 6225933 is the number to call. You tune to the Guyanese Morning Time. Caller live.
Morning, Mr. Amsterdam.
Good morning. You need to turn the instrument in your background down or off.
Most Nigerians are either Christian or Muslim. Yeah, Mr. Amsterdam.
Yes, go ahead.
I want to weigh in on the Kisun saga.
Caller,
Yeah.
with all due respect, I have no appetite to discuss that issue this morning.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
We don't have enough time to discuss that issue. It would be unfair to just allow people to make statements, and I don't have the right to respond. So I'm not going to, entertain that discourse this morning. I want to be fair to everybody. Call your light.
Yeah, good morning, Kadaki. You know, the points that Minister Jordan brought out is good points. We didn't have money to buy all these things. Now they are building a lot of hospitals and they're putting in these modern equipment. They are not giving it to the public hospital. So when you got any problem, you got to go to them. I could remember years ago, I had to go to a hospital to have a ultrasound done. And I went there about 8 o'clock in the morning. And I never left that hospital in Carmichael Street, not until around 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Because everybody who came there, who didn't look like me, waiting for ultrasound, ended up getting the ultrasound. And when the persons that were left, all of them looked like me, but all we came early. We were last to be given our ultrasounds. And from then, I've never gone back to that hospital. But what the install regime is doing, they are putting these things in there, the Blue Hospital, and they have people there who cannot give proper reading. And I don't want to get into the woman, but the woman said they first went to the private. They did things at the private. And after they were told the fee of $5 million, they decided to go to the public. You know, time was being wasted there. Now remember, ICU, me, the doctor, I saw at the public, private. And I told you the price is this. Now, do you think that I will go to the public and perform the same set operation for free? When you now will go out and tell other people, you can go to the private and say, I'm pay little money. Then carry your people at the public and you can do them free. So the doctor would have guarded against his integrity. He would have given the long thing at the public, you wait and you get it done free. Like what he decided to do with them. So that thing is a wheel in a wheel. And when we come to this sanction thing, I wish we could have people who could explain this sanction, because I don't think that has ever happened to Guyana. And we need people, experts, to explain the nitty-gritty of the sanction, like how Minister Jordan was explaining a part of it, because we don't really understand how it must be administered and what and who and whatsoever is being involved in the sanctions. So I hope something could be done to let us know a way forward with the sanction.
Thank you for your call.
With you want to do the battle now today was Mr. Jordan.
Well, now we are short time. Thank you for your call.
Bye-bye.
Yes, it's 11 minutes past the 9 o'clock hour. We have 4 or 5 minutes more we can utilize. Voice note.
Good morning, Mr. Amsterdam and viewers. Pertaining to the story with Mr. Norton and Vanessa Kissoon, I'm a woman as Vanessa Kissoon, and no one.
Sorry, not playing that one. The last you made home 6225923 is the number to call. I'm making it clear. I don't want I don't want anybody to get the impression I'm shying away from this matter. If we're going to deal with it, I want us to have adequate time to deal with it. Right? So everything that is said can be perhaps interrogated and responded to and explained and so on. Right? Failing that, we ain't talking about that story. Call it life.
Morning, Kadaki, and morning, Guyana. We got just a couple of questions here to ask. How does the likes of Kwame McCoy get away in that Foreign Affairs Committee meeting with Amanza Walter with knocking her mic down and turning it off? Why is the men in Guyana allowing these things to take place and disregarding or basically disgracing our women? And nothing is being done. That's one. Second thing is the PPP have been running a scam on Guyanese for decades. The private hospital, what they're doing, and they're creating facts on the ground, which means that they're building all these private hospitals, and eventually the public hospital is going to be do away with. That's what's going on. So everything you're going to have to pay for. And Guyanese are going to be more sicker because they can't afford all these tests that they're being told from the public hospital with billions of dollars in the coffers. They cannot source MRI machines and other vital machines to, diagnose problems. And one of your callers mentioned previously of how it is that, jobs can be created because these machines need to be fixed. And who's going to basically possibly get those jobs? Indian people. But this government or this regime simply is hell-bent on making money for their friends, family, and favorites. So they're creating facts on the ground. And the question is, in the event the coalition get back in there, are they going to reverse all of these things that is taking place? Redress need to be talked about, and all I'm hearing about is like, well, we're going to do this and do that, but never talk about what you're going to do specifically to get these bastards out of office. And that's my take.
Thank you for your take. 6225933 is the number to call. Let me see if I can quickly address the question about Kwame McCoy getting away with the things that he has been doing allegedly to female MPs. I'll give you a good example. When calling live.
Yes, good morning, Brother Kadaki. Good morning to everyone. I have a question here, and I'm kind of going to go away from the subject matter today. In an oil-rich country like Guyana, what would be the pros and cons of someone moving back there?
We can discuss that tomorrow morning. Free Talk Friday.
Okay.
Have
Free
a good
Talk
day.
Friday, will do.
Let me say this. The police came into my place a couple of weeks ago. And I felt violated because the video, they did things that they, in my mind, ought not to do without a search warrant. I recognized immediately that there were some blind spots, for example, on my premises. What have I done to do? What have I done to address that issue? I got me more cameras so I can see all corners, every single one of them. Why am I giving you that example? Or why am I saying that? If something happened to you once, the onus is on you to ensure you take precautionary measures so that it is not going to happen twice. Recognizing that Kwame McCoy apparently is a loose cannon in committee meetings and even in the general sitting of the National Assembly, the opposition MPs have a responsibility, I dare say, to make certain demands. For example, no committee meeting should be held in the presence of Kwame McCoy without being video recorded. None. So cameras must always be present to capture his behavior. That's a start. 2, there are extra parliamentary international organizations that these issues can be brought to. And so what should the members of the opposition do? Get to pen and paper, computer and keyboard, whatever you want to see. But from the first incident, the second incident, all of these incidents should be documented and sent to the international parliamentary organizations, whatever the name. I'm not concerned about the names right now. I know you understand what I'm saying. One of the weaknesses of the opposition I've recognized over the years is that they ever so often fail to utilize international channels to raise their concerns and to have action taken, even pressure brought to bear on the government and the government's representatives in this country. And so that is what should have been happening. The parliamentary opposition should have been writing to the clerk of the National Assembly and all those who that they're supposed to write to. They should have been writing to the international bodies. In some instances, they should have even attempted to file private criminal charges for assault, etc. But we have seen none of this action. And that is why I usually say when I'm critical, I usually say exactly what I want to say. And that sometimes you get the impression that the opposition parliamentarians themselves are compromised. And so they can't do much for the fear of exposure from the opponents. Let them prove me wrong. Call your life. Sorry. Call your life. Caller? Sorry. Caller?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
hi, morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Fine. Listen, you had a caller there a while ago speaking about medical facilities. My question to the government is, an oil-rich country, where is all this money going? Into hotels? The structure of the country are the people. The people are the country. You're spending money on hotels and building shabby roads while the people are suffering. I've just heard on the news there, somebody there, that how many different areas don't have water. This is something that's been going on since I was a baby, and I'm 76 years old now. We have oil. Where is the oil money going? Most of the third world oil-rich countries are suffering now because of mismanagement. And I was hoping and praying that Guyana would be the first to reap a good benefit from their wealth. goes back to Burnham. Burnham said leave the aisle there. Because we have the oil and we still suffering. No lights, no water, just flat.
That's interesting. The call just went. That call just disappeared. But I'm sure you understand what the caller was asking. And I guess the politicians can answer. You know, it would seem to our politicians that it's good enough to build roads and build hotels. It is good enough to showcase something shiny for foreigners to come and enjoy. But the people who are supposed to be your nation builders, your most precious resource, human resource, could be left to live in squalor, etc. Right? But again, what I usually say, people get what they accept. We get what we accept. If you want change, you have to work for change. You have to join your shoulders to the wheel to demand change. It's 23 minutes past the 9 o'clock hour. It's time for me to go. As I do, I encourage you to continue to share the program. Tonight is karaoke at Club Twilight. Sorry. Do come down to Club Twilight tonight for karaoke. The vibes will be good. DJ Al Christie will be here, along with our in-house DJ and so on and so on. Come rub some shoulders, get some affordable drinks, have a relaxing time. There's no harm in that. Good. Join me tomorrow for another program of Guyanese Morning Time. Please remember to share the program. Even though it has ended, please share. There's good information for people to learn from. Share. Encourage somebody else to view. Encourage somebody else to share. Remember that your support is welcome on the Cash App, $CAMS TV, and on the Zelle to UET donor. Good? The information is right out there. Have a good one. Much love and respect. See you tomorrow for Free Talk Friday. Good? If you intend to. As a matter of fact, I did say I want to talk about the ERC. And I did ask you all, send me all them videos you got. With them people cussing black people, as they say, and threatening to kill them and poison them and all of the racist epithets and so on. Send me them so that we can have a good showcase for the ERC tomorrow. Right? Please. And in addition, if you intend to come tomorrow and discuss the Vanessa Kisoon allegations, please ensure you come solid. Because I am not in the mood to entertain foolishness. Please and thank you. I would rather, quite frankly, not even discuss it. I'm not the law. I can't investigate that. The party has its apparatus that may be able to deal with that. But nevertheless, I'll say no more. See you tomorrow on the program. Have a great day. Much love.